What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. So picking up with Infinity Wars Part 5, again, in this part, we really kind of pick up in Soul World. Now, again, these guys are all fighting Devondra, and again, this is kind of a new introduction here by Jerry Dugan, and that's one of the crazy things, is a lot of stuff is being changed here. That's one of the things we talked about in the previous videos, is a lot of things are being changed here. Soul World never looks like this. Now, of course, we can basically attribute this to the fact that the Marvel Comics is now copying the Marvel Cinematic Universe as opposed to the Marvel Cinematic Universe copying Marvel Comics. But the overall gist here is that with Devondra is basically this entity that exists to kind of go through and consume everything inside of Soul World, which is kind of strange because from what we've gathered so far, Gamora has basically acquired the Soul Stones for herself to kind of recreate the universe. But in order to do this, in order to get the heroes out of the way, she can find them all to Soul World and then accidentally merge them all together in the first place. Which kind of begs the question, why didn't she just wipe them all out with the Infinity Gems? With the Infinity Gauntlet. Probably because we already saw Thanos do that once, and I guess you can't do the same gag twice. But nonetheless, while all that fight is going on between the merged heroes and Devondra, you end up having Emma Frost, Miss Marvel, Kane the Conqueror, Ant-Man, Scott Lang, Loki, and the Incredible Hulk, who were kind of off on a mission of their own. Now, we don't know the specifics of this mission. It's just one of the things where Emma Frost is just kind of like, hey, we have to go to this particular location. Now, that's one of the things to bear in mind here. Jerry Dugan does a lot of hand-waving in terms of like why things are happening. Like, why is Emma Frost going to this location? How do all these things unfold? It's just kind of like, well, I mean, they are. And that's just kind of, you just kind of have to run with it. But the location they're traveling to is basically where you have Child Gamora hanging out. Now, again, we don't know how Child Gamora got here. From what we're being told, from what we've seen so far, that the older version of Gamora, who was confined to Soul World, she was there because in the old school comics, when you had Adam Warlock and Pip the Troll and Gamora, who operated as kind of the early days of the Infinity Watch, when they were confined within Soul World, that Gamora, when she left, had left a piece of herself behind. So it sort of made sense that it worked that way, and it just kind of always been that way. Why Child Gamora is here, we're not entirely sure, but the explanation is offered almost immediately, and that's kind of the cool little bit here. What we end up finding out is that when Gamora basically took all the various heroes and put them inside Soul World, that included a portion of herself, a piece of herself. Now again, it's one of the things where Gamora didn't really seem to recognize it, didn't really seem to notice it, and again, a little bit of hand-waving going on here. But one of the things that we have is Child Gamora playing with a set of Infinity Stones. Now, this is new. This is really Jerry Dugan just kind of cooking the books a little bit, and that's one of the things to bear in mind. Again, we've talked about this in previous videos, but when it comes to the Infinity Stones, they only work in their own universe, and a universe only ever has one set of Infinity Stones. The Marvel Cinematic Universe only has one set of Infinity Stones. The main Marvel Universe only has one set of Infinity Stones. The Ultimate Universe, all of these different alternate realities, there's no universe that exists in Marvel Comics where you have more than one set of Infinity Stones. But because of the fact that Gamora had basically created kind of like a duplicate, so to speak, of the main Marvel Universe, and then threw it all into Soul World, that came with the Infinity Stones as well. So she basically created new stones using existing Infinity Stones. That's not supposed to be able to happen. It's like wishing for more wishes when it comes to a genie. Sure, it's a cool idea to have, but at the end of the day, it's not something that can actually be done. From there, Loki ends up basically dispersing the Infinity Stones among the various members of the team, of what's really kind of like this ramshackle Infinity Watch. Now, it's kind of interesting here, because what Loki says is these stones, the Infinity Stones themselves, aren't operating the way they're normally supposed to, that they're kind of different from what we're used to. And so what he basically says is that where we would normally expect Emma Frost to get the Mind Stone because she's such a high-level telepath, or we would expect the Incredible Hulk to get the Power Stone because he's just raw, infinite strength. Instead, Loki starts switching things up and says, actually, Emma Frost is going to get a different stone. The Incredible Hulk's going to get a different, he'll get like the Space Stone, different things like that. That it's all going to kind of shift up from the normal status quo because each stone serves a particular purpose. And so what seems to be going on here is Loki's hitting at the idea that they're basically getting the stones because they're serving a purpose as opposed to, something that inherently would allow them to build on their own power, which again is kind of apart from the status quo, but it still works. Not only that, these stones, because they basically manipulate the universe, basically allow them to leave Soul World. Now, in truth, that's possible. That's entirely possible. For example, if you had the Infinity Stone, the Space Stone, you could use that to enter Asgard if you wanted to. That's entirely possible. That's one of the things to bear in mind, guys, is that what you have, if you were to imagine like a plate, for example, just like a dinner plate, and on that plate you have that plate is like the main Marvel Universe. Then on that plate you have like Asgard, and you've got Olympus where the Greek gods dwell, and you've got the realm of Dormammu, using the Space Stone, you can go anywhere in that universe. You can hop, skip, and jump anywhere within the realm of that universe to go from like one dimension to another. We've never really seen anybody do that before because the story's never called for it, but it's entirely possible, and it's within the possibility of those Infinity Stones to pull that off. And that's the reason why in this particular story, while the Infinity Stones they're using do originate in Soul World, Soul World itself is still part of the universe. So they're basically inside a dimension inside the main Marvel universe. They can just leave that dimension and go back into the main Marvel universe. And that's exactly what they do. They immediately enter into the realm of Gamora, who's basically hanging out at the Quarry of Creation, fighting, Phyla-Vell and Moondragon. Of course, this leads to the arrival of Emma Frost and so on and so forth, all of whom start facing off against Gamora. Now, under normal circumstances, they would never be able to stop her. They would never be able to defeat Gamora because of the stones she wields. But because they have Infinity Stones that make them her equal, then what this now means is they can use them for her. They can literally go toe to toe with her and ultimately come out on top. Now, this is also a very important thing to bear in mind here, is that when it comes to the Infinity Stones, just because a person possesses them does not mean they can use them to their full potential. That's one of the big differences. That's one of the things that Thanos hit on during the original Gauntlet story by Jim Starlin. Thanos has been around for a long time, for like hundreds, if not thousands of years. He's been around for a very, very, very long time, and he's acquired all kinds of knowledge on a wide array of different things. And so using his intelligence, when he accesses the Infinity Gauntlet, he can use it to its full potential because he's so durable. He can withstand the extreme power it possesses. He won't go crazy by, manipulating reality using the Reality Stone. That was established during the events of Thanos' quest when he first gained the gauntlet in the first place, when he started going through and tracking down the stones. But then you look at someone like Parker Robbins, you look at someone like Tony Stark, you look at members of the Infinity Watch like Hulk or somebody like that, and they can't really use the stone to its full potential because, in truth, they're just not smart enough. They don't really have the mental faculties to pull it off. Someone like Reed Richards could do it. We've seen him wield the Infinity Gauntlet. But again, for someone like Gamora, she's not dumb, but she's certainly not on the same level as like Thanos in terms of intellect or the capability necessary to handle the full-on might of the Infinity Gauntlet. So while she can do some pretty impressive things, she's not using the stones at like 100%. She's using them at probably like 70 or 80% or something like that. And so the result is that she's able to hold her own. But if this was Thanos in this situation, he would have destroyed them all. He would have found a way to destroy Emma Frost and all those different characters, and they would have been wiped out, quick, fast, and in a hurry. So again, Gamora is overpowered pretty readily. And it's kind of cool to see the Incredible Hulk with a space stone, literally just like ripping her apart, like just flying basically and throwing her into everything. But the other half of this is, remember, Loki's got a mission of his own to basically capture, to kind of recreate Mjolnir, or at least gain some version of Mjolnir and gain his own Infinity Stones, gain the Infinity Stones for himself. And that's what he does. While everyone is facing off against Gamora, what Loki does is he starts traveling around and basically snatching the Infinity Stones off of people, basically just like palming them and tricking people into believing that he's just kind of working on their side. He steals from Miss Marvel, he steals from Scott Lang, does the same thing to Kane the Conqueror and Emma Frost, literally takes all their Infinity Stones and then teleports away. And so then it's just kind of like, okay, well then what in the world's going on here? Not only that, when Loki gets to whatever this dimension is that he's at, inside what seems to be this Quarry of Creation, it's lined with Infinity Stones. There's a ton of Infinity Stones there. So again, the plot thickens. We don't really know exactly what it is that's taking place here. This is kind of the Quarry of Creation of like the multiverse, but we don't really know to what extent all this is beginning to unfold. Not only that, the stones themselves are powerless inside the Quarry of Creation. So again, this seems to exist outside of the multiverse, which makes sense. I don't know how you really create the multiverse while you're inside of it. You kind of have to be outside of it, like the Beyondverse or something along those lines. And so it's kind of a tail end here. Again, things are left pretty ambiguous. We basically end up picking up with like Drax the Destroyer with Arthur Douglas, but this is back when he was in his human form. Now, for those of you guys who are not familiar with this, the character of Drax the Destroyer was a guy named Arthur. Moondragon is his biological daughter named Heather. The way this originally played out in Marvel Comics was that Thanos had launched an invasion against Earth, and when he did, he had come across Drax the Destroyer and come across Arthur and like destroyed his car in the process. And when that happened, Arthur was dead, Heather was believed to have been dead, and of course the wife was killed. And what ended up going on here is we basically had Heather, who was taken away by the father of Thanos, and then her telepathy was essentially unlocked, and she was trained to become one of the most powerful telepaths in Marvel Comics. And then you ended up having Arthur Douglas, who was basically resurrected from the dead by Kronos, the god for I guess one of the cosmic entities, and in turn was transformed into Drax the Destroyer and given the sole purpose of basically tracking down Thanos and destroying him. This situation does not unfold the same way. They do crash into a tree, but when they do, the tree is Groot. And that's when Arthur basically begins to say things like, I know this tree, I know this guy. So he's basically having flashbacks to his life as Drax the Destroyer. So again, this seems to take place inside of Soul World, but it's very, very ambiguous. There's a lot of cloak and dagger going on here. We don't really know exactly what's taking place. It's very, very far-fetched. It's really kind of out there and even a little bit confusing, but it is somewhat interesting. It's one of these stories where Jerry Dugan's just kind of like, things are happening and like you'll have to read the next issue to find out, which is of course the finale. Again, it's kind of crazy to see this whole scenario unfold. It's kind of wild to see it all take place. But again, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.